Hey, it's Patrick Lovell, truth bombing and riffing truth against the Borg of corruption on Friday, May 12th at 3:20 p.m. my time. And I just had to pull the trigger on this because I've got some stuff to do this afternoon, but man, oh man, has it been an incredibly important and revealing day. I woke up this morning and I was just on fire on Twitter. I mean, I can't stop it. I'm just like, look, there's no way in hell I'm going to sit and watch my country that I love above probably all else in context to I would be nothing without the United States and everything that it means to me. But it's decaying. It is a train wreck, tidal wave disaster of corruption. And I know it. Many of you know it. I have the details. I've gotten a lot of traction and momentum. I've been very transparent about my political ideology. I'm not afraid to pull punches. I'm anti-MAGA as anti-MAGA gets. I think the fact that Donald Trump is even someone who can have a microphone at this stage of the game, considering everything that we know and he's indicted on and being investigated for, and the fact that millions rally around him is absolutely unacceptable to me. Obviously, in a nation of free speech, anybody can listen and do whatever they need to. We're talking about a criminal, and that's just the beginning. But as I've mentioned over and over, Teflon Don the Con is just a small piece of the big picture. And in fact, I dare say, given everything that I've seen in media over the course of the last 2 weeks, I've come to the conclusion in my mind that Don is a creation, an incubation, a projection of some diabolical producers and people like me who are imaginative and very good at being able to get messages out there, to be able to drive a wedge into the consciousness of the American people, to create basically identity politics, civil war, such that you don't have any idea what it is that I'm revealing to you. And I have been on phone call after phone call today with, quite frankly, some of the most important people that exist that are getting the attention of tens of millions of people right now, that are actually coming to me for the information that I'm providing you, and it's going to get to you one way or the other. But my case to you is we need to make this thing happen immediately. It has to be a organic, ground up, grassroots revolution. It has to be what I continue to reveal in my sort of framing, which is a tidal wave populist crusade to purge corruption based on the facts and all of the ingredients that I've revealed to you in all of our work. The Con at www.thecon.tv has been available on Apple Plus, on Microsoft, whatever that platform is, and Amazon Prime since, let's say, I think it was September, November of 2020. And it's going to go bye-bye June 21. But that might change because of some things that were happening today. But more importantly, if millions of you understand why it's important to you, particularly those of you who had gotten ground down from the 2008 great financial crisis, many of you gave up years and years ago, but many of you got set up in the same trap that have been going through this post what we call the national mortgage settlement over the course of the last 10 years. And a lot of new people were added to this scheme 2016 on. And you're screaming from the court saying, hey, listen, I found out about this illegal documentation fraud and misrepresentation that the courts are allowing, and the people that are trying to foreclose on me that set me up in deceptive acts and practices where they definitely move the goalposts on the terms of the contract and many other things associated with mortgages are foreclosing on me, and they don't have the right to foreclose. You particularly have to use the Con as your champion because it validates everything that happened to you, and it comes from the top. It comes from the top of the FBI, the top of the DOJ, the top of the SEC. We proved the only RICO conviction in the country, and it's the investigation that the United States government quashed under President Obama. Should have happened, but it didn't. It metamorphosized into 4 different evolutions of what reveal exactly what I'm telling you, but much less, to be quite frank with you. The Federal Crisis Inquiry Commission, the national mortgage settlement, and all the bank settlements with all the too big to fail apparatus that paid $250 billion because they got paid $30 trillion plus another $13 trillion at least. I think it's $16 trillion to cover up the racketeering, corrupt enterprise that destroyed tens of millions of people, and it's all of the details. Do you ever hear of Watergate? It's like that, but none of the media picked it up. Instead, all of the media covered it up. And I mean all. And so, of course, over the course of the last 24 hours, 48 hours, 48, it was, so clear to so many people, and there's outrage towards CNN by, allowing to platform, as we now say, Donald Trump, who continued his bloviating, horrific, deceptive, lying circus of manipulation and perversion that he's calling a presidential campaign. And, if someone's a liar and a thief and is being investigated, if you're CNN, the only reason you do that is because you're a whore. And then, of course, we learned 2 weeks ago that Fox is, of course, a whore, but for their side of the equation, where they provide a platform and, literally it's just a propaganda lie machine that, Joseph Goebbels would have been impressed by. And then MSNBC has its own form, which is identity politics, but none of them, particularly Anderson Cooper, I don't know why I singled him out. I think I saw something, show up on my feed right before I press click, but really all of them, everybody. But I guess I should say this, most notably the New York Times and Andrew Ross Sorkin buried what it is that I'm telling you. And so today is a magical day. At first I got a lot of kind of go get him, man, and I support you. And I love what you're doing. I don't fully understand it, and I'm just coming now to, hear what you're saying, and I very much appreciate it and applaud your transparency. And, how can I sign up and get on board, and what exactly are you doing, and that sort of thing. And now people are now starting to catch up because they don't know the thousands of hours of information I've put out there at Patrick Level Truth Bombs The Con, both on TikTok and YouTube, as well as my work in The Con at www.thecon.tv. And also, I believe we've got 20 hours, roughly 19 to 20 hours of a podcast that we call The New Untouchables on with our friends who their platform is The Real Progressives. All you have to do is check out The New Untouchables. You put all of that stuff together, and it's the sum total of what all of the agencies of the United States couldn't put together. And they have a collective budget annually of $90 billion a year and 10,000 employees. I didn't have those resources. Now, the calls that I had today, I can't give you the details, but I can tell you that one way or the other, these truths that I'm having are going to seep into the atmosphere around the Borg through it with unexpected people that are some of the most well-known people, and I dare say my heroes, one of which may or may not be running for president. But filmmakers and celebrities and people that are just incredible talent are now starting to understand what it is that I've got and what it means. Because 13 years after I started my journey and 3 years after we dropped this, more like 2.5 years, but to the public, it's exactly what I've been telling you on TikTok and on Twitter and on now on Substack Notes. And, I dropped Facebook a long time ago because I couldn't stand the dearth and the black hole and the way that we're all manipulated by technology. But I actually am going to drop this on Rumble as well. But what I was able to achieve is to reveal the massive predation of Wall Street that set up and rug pulled and destroyed the lives of millions of Americans with what we call control fraud. And there's a reason why CEOs do what they do, and there's a way they do it, which we show you in our work. And it's nothing but racketeering. You ever hear of RICO? You ever hear of the mob? You know that when the mob uses its consigliaries to go knock off somebody and then they hide the information, and you ever see a detective crime mystery where they try to have to flip people to get to the top guy, the Don, and to try to take down the Don? Yeah, it's that. It's racketeering. It's RICO, racketeering, influence, corrupt organization, of which, of course, Don the Con is about to be indicted on that as well down in Georgia. And by the way, a lot of I've said this millions of times, but most of what were being revealed in Jack Smith's special investigation from the DOJ, as well as Letitia James, the New York Attorney General's investigation and all of Donald Trump's business practices going back decades, which is control fraud and so many different variations of it, which is racketeering, and it's all illegal. And then there's, the investigation, like I just mentioned, down in Georgia based on RICO. But the techniques of using documentation fabrication and the electoral certifications, that at the helm of this, none other than Rudolph Giuliani, the vampire general counsel, I suppose, or attorney general, even though he wasn't either, but special counsel of Donald Trump. That guy was the dude who actually implemented RICO to take out the 5 families in New York back in the 70s. And he was a really good guy, only this many years later to go through however many divorces, become an alcoholic and idiot that was involved with the insurrection. And that's all crazy. But all of those things, and then some, and I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to spend too much time doing this, are what the con reveals. All of it, especially Jack Smith's special investigation, because about a month ago there was news that the criminal fraud exception was actually involved with some new evidence and maneuverings of the special counsel, because they caught Donald Trump's attorneys lying. And what we revealed to you, among others, and probably at the height of this, that's the most annoying to me, and I guess hateful, deceitful, the betrayal is insane, is attorneys across the country have been involved with using documentation fabrication to illegally foreclose on millions of people. And the courts knew it and allowed it. The corruption at the Supreme Court through Clarence Thomas is gigantic. What I'm telling you is infinitely larger. And then, of course, the entirety of it comes down to the most important revelation of all, that the Federal Reserve, which was created to answer to Congress, doesn't. And I have the evidence and everything that proves what the Federal Reserve knew and ultimately what the Federal Reserve did after the collapse of the 2008 Great Financial Crisis, where we, the people, were sold a bag of goods by the Obama administration through what they called the Troubled Assets Relief Program, which initially was initiated during the Bush administration, and then in the transition, of which, by the way, John McCain and Barack Obama were in the midst of, but it all got carried out eventually during the Obama administration. But, we had this emergency stimulus through Congress, which everybody at the time were like agape jaw drop, called TARP, the Troubled Assets Relief Program, which was $700 billion plus another $50 billion for the Home Affordable Modification Program that didn't help tens of millions of Americans. I think it was used in about 1 million cases, maybe a little bit more, but I think it was intended. I mean, it was a drop in the bucket compared to the damage that happened. Okay, but at the end, you need to understand that all of Wall Street, all of it. It's too big to fail banks. It's investment banks. It's which ultimately got merged, and the asset managers and the hedge funds and the private equity and the rest of the whole hierarchy were in deep shit. And most of them were bankrupt. And they were bankrupt because they were all involved with this mammoth fraud, which was all illegal reps and warranties, which made the whole which were felonies, which should have taken out the CEOs if you were actually going to do the investigation, which would have led to exactly what I show you in the con, which it was all racketeering and should have been prosecuted under RICO statutes, just like we're seeing with Donald Trump. But of all of the top CEOs, the dons of our financial system, but that didn't happen. And as a result, Barack Obama and Attorney General Eric Holder, with Congress and probably the Supreme Court to a degree, were all in on making sure that you didn't know this, especially all of media, particularly the New York Times under Andrew Ross Sorkin, who is just a pretty face that's there to make you feel like everything is professional and by the book, and he hid the largest criminal conspiracy and cover-up in history, and mainstream media has zero credibility. What it led to was in 2009, $29 trillion being emergency, the spigots turned on, like at the Hoover Dam when you see it go full blast to fill up the Colorado River down below to feed Los Angeles. It was like that with the money spigots, right? With all of these alphabet soup of these lending apparatuses to the tune of $30 trillion that were manifested illegally. Literally illegally. Because it was all a crime syndicate, and all of these banks and these institutions were insolvent. And if you just read the actual statutes, you realize you can't lend to insolvent institutions, particularly if they were made insolvent by racketeering. Nowhere in the Constitution, nowhere in any amendments, nowhere in any special anything does it say that that's even a remote possibility. The only way that can happen is if everybody who knows better doesn't say anything, which is exactly what they did. And I got the evidence from that from the Federal Crisis Inquiry Commission that crack journalist Pam Martins of Wall Street on Parade just happened to publish in 2021 was when I finally came across this. After years and years of knowing all of it, but I didn't have the testimony from the top dog at the law firm Sullivan and Cromwell, which incidentally our current Federal Reserve Chairman came out of, said to the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission that they didn't know how deep the problem went because they discovered all of the collateral was multi-pledged. And he also admitted that, yeah, nowhere does it say that this is anything remotely what we've done before, but I won't tell anybody if you don't. Well, here I am in 2023 telling the world, and now very important people are listening, and they have been to a degree, but the momentum's starting to go. But regardless if they say anything or not, which they will, there's still millions of you that will never be heard about your cases in the courts and everything else that relates to all of the corruption. The entire system is a bloated, feasting whale of corruption where these guys are parasites feeding on the bloated whale of democracy, and that's unacceptable. It died. You know, there's so many other things I want to say, but I gotta just close this up because I had one investor today say, look, she started to look into what it is that I'm doing. And she said to her, not knowing who I am and what I've done and all of all the details of everything that we've revealed, she's like, wait a second, but we need a course of action. The people need to know what to do next. I'm telling you what you need to do next. You need to, if you want to rid corruption, given the scope and you want to compete with the billionaires that have learned how to use billions of dollars to go in the system to corrupt it so that they can grift trillions of dollars to piss on your head telling you it's rain, and then they use all of the media to be able to obfuscate the whole thing. I used to think it's like it's Orwellian, and now I'm over that because I have all the details. I'm not thinking of like, hey, is it a comparison to, some sort of science fiction revelation that, oh, I got it. Yeah, no, I've got all the details. This is exactly the way it is. That's why very important people are actually coming on board. But what I'm telling you is we have to have a We the People movement. And I'm asking you in honor of the original 13 colonies who fought a revolution against the Empire of England to basically purge tyranny of their time, that I'm asking you to invest at $13 into this tidal wave populist crusade to purge corruption. And I'm going to lay it out. I'm going to do a barnstorming tour, and I'm going to take this information to the people, and I'm going to create a podcast, and I want to get to 13 million people because, first of all, it took us $4.5 million to get you this information. So yeah, I'm a little invested. I don't even know what those numbers are. Let's just do it for shits and giggles. So I have my phone on. Let's see how many people I would have to get at $13 to match what I've already done, right? So let's just do this real quick. Yeah, so I'd only have to have approximately 347,000 of you contribute $13 to match what I've already done. And that doesn't even come close to the tens of thousands of hours and the heart-wrenching effort that I've put into this that basically sacrificed my family, and I'll never get those years back, but I won't quit to purge corruption because you have to have skin in the game, and the only way the system, the machine, is going to hear us, because as you can see, CNN and Fox have just in the last 2 weeks proven that they're just facades of deception and lies. And that's what advertisers are advertising in. So what does that make them? We got to hold the system to account. And by the way, all of mainstream media is in on it. I'll keep my subscription to the New York Times because they do a lot of things fantastic. Like today, I saw one of the greatest investigative pieces I've ever seen into collapse this Renaissance condo tower in Turkey during the earthquake because it was built incorrectly, and they showed you exactly how. I got published in the New York Times in the comment section on that piece when I said, bravo, New York Times editors and everybody involved with this. Now, if only you guys would work with me to show how this is how our financial system is designed. And again, the New York Times published it. Kudos to you. But at the same time, the higher management, they're never going to let you know the story. I am the only pathway to this. And so it's not about me, though. It's you plus me equals we the people. And we have to have a we the people populist crusade to purge corruption. Because if you, me, and everyone you see who isn't a Nazi, who believes in dignity, integrity, and decency, and liberty, and sustainability, if we merge in unity, we will purge tyranny, and that will be our destiny because, people, we are so much better than this. Yeah, I hate people that fall prey to MAGA. I don't hate them particularly. I hate the system that created that. There's always going to be people who are hateful that want the Confederacy or Nazis, and I've always hated them. I can tell you that. I'd be always on the side of the Patriots against King George III. I would have been on the side of the Union against the Confederates. I would have been on the sides of the great GIs that took out Hitler and everything in between. And also, I'd go. But what we're doing is we're going to the back of the cowboy saloon, and we discover when we get past the bar and everything else in the back room, we see the black hats counting the money with the white hats. And I got the gun and I'm pointing at them, and I need you guys to back me up. And we're going to do it, if we do it at $13 at a time, and we get to 169 million people, that's my total objective. We'll create a new party. But we got to get the truth out there, and we got to elevate this truth above the noise of madness, of predation. Betrayal. That's all it is. It's massive, massive betrayal. So I'll finish up with the hashtags that you're going to get the, if you contribute $13 and you bring in 13 people, you're going to get a bumper sticker and you're going to get a t-shirt that'll give you your choice of failure is not an option. It's not rocket science. It's racketeering. Rise, roar, revolt, onwards and upwards. The truth is bullet. Onwards and upwards.